Welcome to Peel and Reveal, the podcast where we share stories about joy, purpose, and self-discovery. I'm Annelie Näs, and in this episode, I sit down with Aramae Flörkemeier, an energetic and shamanic healer with over 30 years of experience in energy healing, including 15 years specializing in shamanic medicine. Aramae is a certified Brennan Healing Science practitioner and Brennan integration practitioner. In 2015, she co-founded the School for Energetic and Shamanic Healing Methods in Germany and France, and she has also spent a decade teaching as a senior teacher in Patricia White Buffalo's shamanic program in southern France. Now based in her homestead in Kalletal, Germany, Aramae continues to guide people through deep healing and personal transformation. Let's dive in. Welcome, Aramae.
Yeah, Annelie, thank you for inviting me. I am really also super excited to have this interview with you. And I feel blessed that I can share my story.
I want to start from like when you were young, when you were a little kid. Who was like Aramae as a kid?
Oh, I was very wild. Oh.
Okay, tell me more.
I liked horse riding, climbing on the trees, and I was outside all the day. I had no children's room. I had outside. So I liked it. And I had two older brothers. Mm-hmm. And we were, every day we were in nature or in forest. And my favorite thing was collecting old stones from ancient times and put them into the kitchen of my mother. And my mother got crazy because I was collecting all these Stone Age people's stones.
Yeah. That's funny. How were you as a person except for energetic? Like were you outgoing? Were you introverted? Were you but other personality traits except for that you were a lot of energetic? Like how were you when you were a kid?
Yeah. I was very shy. I was very shy. Only in nature with the kids. I was not shy. But I was, cannot say extro or intro. I had a lot of fantasies. I wrote archaeologic books when I was 7 about Egypt. Yeah, and that was crazy. So, and I had no fun playing with dolls. So, I don't know.
You like stones and archaeology. That's a hard word to pronounce.
Yeah, I did.
Wow, that's cool. And like if we start growing up a bit, like how did you grow up? Like did you live in the same place? How was it when you started school? Like how did you grow from being a child to like an adolescent?
Yeah, I grew up on a farm. Mm-hmm. Which is my favorite. I returned when I was 38. I returned to that farm, and I had normal childhood with all these educational problems. And when I was 16, I had a lot of shocks, really traumatic shocks, and I was very ill. And shook my whole personality. I decided to not dance or laugh anymore when I was 16, which was really hard. But I think this was kind of, preparing me for the healing path.
Yeah. I mean, it's usually that way it starts, like something happens with you or in your surrounding and stuff like that. Do you mind sharing a bit what happened, or would you feel okay with that?
Yeah, I had this one of my best friends. He died in an accident, which was unbelievable cruel for me, and I couldn't digest. And my brother left home, which was really painful for me. He was older. And my first love didn't want me. So it was, everything came together, and I had the feeling there is nobody there for me anymore. I felt alone and abandoned, and also, very shocked from this trauma.
Yeah. And you mentioned that this caused some sort of physical illness as well. What was that?
I had always gallbladder infections. And every second night the whole night I had pains and colics, and it was horrible.
Wow.
It went on for 5 years.
Every night?
Second night or twice a week, yeah.
Oh my God. And what happened, like, because I assume at that point or was anyone in your family into the sort of path that you are on now, or were you more, if I can use the word, traditional?
No, it was very traditional, and the physicians there were very mean to me. Everybody told me that I'm only psychologically ill, and it was, nobody took me serious with my pains. But then after 5 years, they found out I have only gallbladder stones, which made the trouble. And so, but the story went on.
Yeah.
I had pancreatitis and nearly died.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And I assume, I'm kind of making a leading question now, but I assume this triggered some sort of like new interest in you?
No.
No?
New interest came when I gave birth to my daughters. Then
Okay.
I suddenly understood, okay, there's more than only physics. And I start to have a training in homeopathy, and I start to have trainings in early childhood education and psychology. And so I started. And also
Right.
with my university studies, I did management skills and team building courses. And so I started to really be interested in how do people function? What is the soul? It was new, and so I started to explore this. And so I studied new second time.
But I'm so curious now, what happened when your daughters were born? Like, what triggered this? How was that experience?
Yeah, I saw that the physicians couldn't help when they were ill, and that made me crazy. I thought, this is a doctor. Why can't he help? So I started homeopathy and
Okay.
and psychology, early childhood kind of function or dysfunction. No.
And for someone who doesn't know I mean, I'm sure we have listeners and me, myself included, I'm not sure what the definition of what a homeopath does. What is that for someone who doesn't know?
They give medicine from they give medicine in really tiny, sometimes only energetic doses, with a plant or a mineral, or I don't know, a lot more. And this plant or mineral would cause the disease the child go through. But as you and the model is healing the disease with the same plant or mineral which causes the disease. And so they put it in energetic potions and they gave it to my children. I loved it. Healing was immediately. So I started to understand there is more than physics.
Interesting. And I mean, by the time you got kids, because I mean, you had been sick yourself and you had been into the normal, more healthcare. I guess, was your earlier diseases cured before you had kids, or was this also a realization that, I can also be healed by this?
Yeah, I started to heal myself. Yeah. that was the journey. Yeah. It goes deeper, it went deeper and deeper and deeper into the wisdom of how you can heal yourself or help heal another person. Yeah, I think this was the start of my healership.
So tell us a little bit about, like, you know, a few examples of what you discovered and what that taught you, and how you like continued to learn to heal yourself. Like, I think now for you it's so obvious, but can you tell us a little bit about how you dug yourself down there?
Good question. Yeah, I started to do this homeopathic training. I started to learn about energy work, and in the early 90s, I started to do Reiki, and I could see how people and how myself could heal with this, or at least feeling better, have more energy. And but I always had the feeling it's not enough what I know. It's not enough. I need to learn more. And by those days, healing was very hard. It took a long time, kind of. Because, I mean, now the wisdom is everywhere and the energy of healing is everywhere. But those days, I mean, more than 30 years ago, it was, if only a few people were in it. So there was not a lot of knowledge about it. And so I had lessons, different kind, energy work, psychology, Reiki, and I started to treat myself, treat other people, have experience about how energy is working.
Can we walk something? Can we make something like an example so people can understand it better? Like, do you have a? I know that when we were in the jungle, you shared a few stories about people that you healed. Like, would you mind sharing a few stories?
You want to know the most traumatic experience in my healership, which brought me to a point that I really, really had to stop my old work and start the new one?
Yes, please.
So I did Reiki on a person. We gave, my husband and I, we gave house clearing. And so I said, okay, you do the house clearing today. I give Reiki to the lady. And so I started to give Reiki, and as soon as I put my hands into her energy field, into her aura, I could see how she was murdered in a past life, kind of past life. It was like a movie. I was inside this middle-aged scenery, and I saw her as a pregnant woman. And there came a man with a horse. He had black dress on, black hat. Everything was black, kind of. And he went off from his horse and he killed her. And I saw every tiny detail, which I don't want to repeat here. And this was a total shock for me, because I had the feeling I stand by side. I was standing
you
next
were just
to
watching
them.
It happen,
I was like they were in front of me in real life.
Oh, wow.
So my hormones, my system totally collapsed. I was totally in shock. And I removed my hands and brought me to a really big crisis. Because I didn't know what that was. This was one of my very, very early healings I gave.
Wow.
And of course I was very curious what that is. Is there a past life? What does it mean? And I could see how this murder was related to her miscarriages in the present life. I even could see that this guy with a black dress on this horse was her physician in the clinic in the present life. I could see everything, but I had no idea how to heal this energy so that she could finally have babies.
Yeah, wow.
Because she lost 4 children. And I could only see the cause for it, this murder in this past life. Maybe it was symbolic, I don't know. So I still don't know, but it really brought me. I said, no, I cannot work in my profession anymore. I really need to explore and learn about this and try to heal people. This was my biggest longing. It was my biggest longing. So I started to really give all my time for exploring this.
Wow. That's quite powerful. Also quite shocking it must have been.
It was very shocking.
Yeah.
It was really shocking. It took my whole perception of the world.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if this can be put in words, so I'm just asking questions and out of my curiosity. But if that woman had come to you today, how would you help her?
I would do a soul retrieval for her.
Okay.
And I would retrieve the soul part which was lost during this murder. So she was kind of, you would say in psychological terms, dissociated. That works also for past lives. So a part of her soul was gone, kind of. I would retrieve this part so that she could have this part of her which was in trauma in this past life, could retrieve, bring it back, heal it. In a kind of way, I cannot say because I didn't. So I would give her a healing in this past life, retrieve the part and gave it back to her in the present life. And also the baby who was murdered those days, those in this past life, I would retrieve this soul part and release it into the light, kind of. I don't know because I didn't, but kind of how this is happening, you always give soul parts or souls into the light if they are lost, or bring it back to the owner. So, and yeah, with this intention, I could probably heal this so that she might have had a real baby, a living baby. Yeah.
Wow. And like, I mean, you mentioned so many things now that we have talked about them before, but they are still very foreign to me, even though I'm super curious. Like, how did you learn to do soul retrievals?
Soul retrieval to learn is very easy.
I love it's just you that thinks to say that.
I mean, maybe some shamans say you need to have 1 year of studies, but you can learn it. You can learn it if you are talented to do it. You can learn it in 1 hour. If you need time to learn it, you can learn it in 2 days.
Oh wow!
It depends on how well you can stop your mind, stop your thinking, and how well you can go into relaxation and into other brain waves, kind of trance in your head. And if you go into trance in your head, and I explain you how you can do soul retrieval, you can do soul retrieval.
Oh wow!
Easy.
Wow. Okay, so except for this sort of work, what else? Or can you share some of the stories about the work that you are doing now for the listeners to hear, so they can be as amazed as I am?
Yeah, I can share a story about soul retrieval because it was so really touching. I had a client, her father had died And since that day, she couldn't be with her kids and her husband. She was depressive and very sad, couldn't work anymore. So I made a soul retrieval for her, and I found a really huge part of her soul up on a hill, sitting on a bench with her father. So I asked my client if she could really say goodbye now, and she agreed. And so we did a say goodbye ceremony with her father, and I helped her father also to let her go. Because he wanted to be with her, because he knew that she was so sad. So he tried to help her, which didn't work. So I asked him, I told him, you really need to go, because your daughter has a family. She has family, and she needs to go back to her family and live her life. And so I asked the grandparents, so the father and mother of the father, to ask him to come into the light. And so always kind of angelic energy comes in and helps this deceased person to go into the light. Yeah, and I asked my client to say goodbye and let go. And go. And so she could go back internally to her own family and retrieve this part which was sitting on the bench, and she went back to her family.
Wow. And like in that sort of event, because I mean, just that situation is of course very, big, and it's very powerful. But like from having a session with you, like how long does it take for a person to, like, is it immediate, like from that second she could be with her family, or does it take a few weeks until, like, kind of the body realizes what happened or something?
It's a shift of consciousness. So this is immediately. So, okay, I always, when I do, a lot of women come to me when they lost a child. And so I give the baby, the unborn deceased baby, into the light, help to separate mother and baby, kind of energetically, so that the mother can move on and the soul of the baby can move on too. I always ask in those cases to put candles for the next week or 3 weeks, depends, and pray and give praise and give thanks to the deceased baby or father, and set up an altar. But with this, they have a place to go, and they have also a place to live with the family, or to live the life.
Okay.
And that works very, very fast. Yeah.
Wow. Because now I'm jumping a bit away from your work, and because we met in Peru, we were both at an ayahuasca center. I've had an interview with Becky, so those who listen to this will have heard my conversation with Becky. So Aramae and I met there, and so my experience when we were working with ayahuasca is that a lot of things happened in the sessions and in between the sessions and stuff, but a lot of things kind of need to integrate and change when it comes to habits in kind of real life afterwards for it to really, like, settle kind of in the body. Do you agree, or is it just me being new to this, or is it different sort of works, or yeah?
This depends on what issue or topic you work.
Okay, interesting. Wow.
If you work on personality kind of disorder, it takes a long time to heal. If you work on chronic trauma, it takes a long time to work.
Okay.
Also, chronic diseases or early childhood disorders, which are from abandonment or terror, that need time to work. But if this is an accident, surgery, soul loss from when you lose people, then it goes more fast.
How come is that? Is it due to the timing, or when it happened, or how much it happened, or what makes things faster and slower?
That depends if you work on your personality or if you work on outer experiences which trigger your life or trigger your soul.
Wow.
Shock or trauma this is different than if you work on your personality problems, the problems in your life which last since your birth or before, and you need to change because the first 7 years of your life, everything which comes into your field is the hardware of your body, of your personality. It's like with a computer, this is hardware. You know, hardware is fixed. If you are 7 years old, hardware is fixed. Your personality is done.
Wow.
Is programmed. Yeah. So, and then if there is happening trauma, you can remove it more easily. But you go in, if you want to go into the hardware and change your personality, which is programmed, I'm bad, or I'm ugly, or the world is mean, or mothers are mean, this takes longer.
Interesting. So now I'm bringing myself into an example just because I'm curious, and I could be wrong about this because I'm not done on my personal journey, but I found that a lot of my first 7 years were very happy and safe. We did find some stuff in it when I was at the ayahuasca retreat, but I found more that I was a lot more effective and started more negative habits in my 20s, but they weren't really traumas. It was more kind of my field then, what was surrounding my field then. Is that my software then, or what is that easier to remove, stuff that happens when we're older, or is it an illusion that I think that stuff can happen then as well?
I don't know. You know, the hardware can take software.
The hardware can
take software, can work with the software.
Okay.
And is this kind of, okay, we're working together, kind of. And so how can we sort out? This is a philosophical question, because you do what you do because of your personality.
True. So we can cut this out if you don't want to share this story, but I remember when you were in the jungle, you were sharing about a guy who had he had some sort of head injury that you helped heal. Do you remember the story?
Yeah, this person from the South Sea. Yeah.
Do you mind sharing that one?
Yeah, I had a young man. He was 18, and he I don't know the word in English. You know, in sport there's this big bowl, this big metal bowl in sport, which is very, very heavy, and you throw it.
Yeah, I know the sport. You have this this metal ball, and then you spin around
exactly. Yeah, and one of those balls hit him on his head.
Yeah, that's insane.
And so he was kind of 9 months or 12 months having headaches. Nobody could help. And so he came to see me, and I gave a healing, and he fall asleep for 1 hour. And when I came back, he asked me, "Oh, now you're ready?" And now I said, "I'm ready since 1 hour." And he said, "My headache is gone." What I did was I restructured the lines of light in his head, because energy lines flowing through the head to the brain, and these energy lines, they were kind of cut, splittered, and they were not aligned in his brain, in his head, in the bones. It was all crisscross, cross. It was not. It was, kind of a mess. And so I lined these energy lines. That was all I did.
You make that sound so simple. How do you do that?
I don't know. Maybe I'm not doing it. Maybe spirit are doing it.
Interesting. Yeah, that's true. I mean, we talk a lot about the fact that, like, when you do heal, it's important that you don't like if I'm being helped by you, it's important that I don't see you as the healer, but that you're just kind of assisting me in becoming healed and like finding my own healing possibility somehow. I've not figured this one out yet.
Yeah, of course, you are the one who heals. It's not me who heals you. You are the one. If you are ready to heal and the spirits come and help you, they will work with you. The energetic realm, whoever this is, I mean, this is a question. I can see them as forms or as colors or as smells, or but I mean, who knows what it is? We can talk about this for hours, So, but there is something which comes into my healing practice and works with me, through me, with the client, and the client need to be receptive and ready.
Yeah.
This is kind of co-working. It's a team. It's a team.
Yeah.
It's a universal cosmic spiritual team, kind of.
How do you get in contact with your spirits, or like how if I wanted to like learn more about doing the work that you do, like that I wanted to become like a shamanic or energetic healer myself, like where do I start?
It's very easy. Ask them to come.
Oh, what do I ask for? Just hi.
Ask them to come and support you. And I mean, and believe, because maybe you don't see them, you don't hear them, you don't smell them, you don't know if they are there, but believe. This is the thing. Really believe, and this is the only thing you can do, believing in that spirits come and help.
Yeah. You make everything sound so easy all the time when I'm talking to you. I'm like, yeah, sure.
It is easy. I mean, it costs me, I don't know, more than 30 years of training. But I mean, nowadays, energy is dense, energy is there. And I mean, I train people. I needed maybe 3 days to train people in doing something. Now I train them in 1 hour. It's totally different since the 90s. Wow. And everybody is so easy in healing and learning healing skills or working with the spirits, because the veil is open. The veil is very thin, and you can go through it nowadays very easily. And I mean, I can train you to work with the spirits, and then you can give healing. And I hope a lot of people will learn and give healing for themselves and everybody.
Yeah. But I find this so interesting, because a lot of the times when I talk to you and other people who have been in this sort of world a lot longer than I have, you say that it's so easy and it's all around us and everything. But when I like return to my, and I'm going to say normal now, but like my old world, it feels like people are sicker than ever. Like if I would just, talk about the people that are closest to me, there is not one of them who doesn't have a serious, like either physical or mental or emotional, like trouble that are now stronger than it was like 2-3 years ago. So like how is the how are
Interesting.
these two working in parallel?
What is the question?
How can healing be all around us and so easy, while the people I see in, like, well, I'm gonna say city of Stockholm now, are just getting sicker and sicker?
I know, but I mean, if the people have stress, they need to change their lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, this is a problem, having stress,
Yeah.
having internet, having chemicals, having poison in the air and the water everywhere. I mean,
Mm.
and this stressful life we have it. I mean, so people get sick, of course.
Yeah, since I come back, I've been describing it as because now I kind of have an on and an off. You know, when I was on leave, I didn't have that much impressions, or I'm calling it diet. Like I didn't have that much in my diet. I didn't meet that many people. I didn't, eat as many bad things. I didn't read as many things, and so I had like less information coming into me. So it was like easier to clean out than to, when I fell asleep at the end of the day, I had processed the day, versus now I have so much like information and so much things happening around me, so I don't have time to process what the input that I get in a day while I'm still awake, so I end up waking up at night because I'm still like processing. um is that what you call stress, and is that like what you think is the problem with why people become sick, or is it something before that? Like, is there a reason why we even do this to ourselves?
Let me say it in a very positive way. If you, I mean, Becky, I totally know what Becky says about that healing is a long path, which is also very true, because you question yourself. You go to your habits, you go to your patterns, you go through your addictions, and even watching television is an addiction, or I don't know, not having enough sleep is an addiction, you know? So if you really want to heal, you need to change inside. And this lasts long. And so, yeah, start with yourself and looking into yourself and, okay, what can I change to be better? And in our Western culture, the most or the worst thing is that we have bad thinking habits.
Interesting. Can you, like, if I would come to you and say that I needed help, can you help me clear a bad thinking habit?
This is also a process of awareness, consciousness, awareness, to really observe yourself, slow down, ask yourself why I'm doing this, or why do I have these bad feelings? What do I think? Or what did I think before the bad feelings came? So you need to train yourself to observe yourself, which needs time and which needs endurance. And most people don't like this.
No.
There's no pill for it.
Yeah. Oh, but hey, let us give the listeners an example here, because I had this happening to me only earlier this week. I had a argument with a close friend, and it was like my body was divided somehow, because I was very like even when I tried to like analyze what I could have done differently or what I could have said differently and so forth, like for me, I really stood by like what I had said and how I had like what I had apologized for and what I hadn't apologized for. Like I felt very, very aligned, but it kept like it kept feeling that there was something I was missing, or that I should feel bad about more stuff than I did and so forth. So there was like two voices going on, and I tried to feel where it was in my body, feel what was going on, but I never really came to a conclusion. So I booked a time with my hypnotherapist, which I usually do when stuff like this goes on, but I haven't met her yet, so this is still kind of a case. So here I have something that I'm aware that it is a thing, but I'm not really skilled or like confident, or I don't know what I am, but I can't really solve it myself. What would you do in such a situation?
I would do supervision, because things are in shadow or or unconscious. I mean, more than 90% of our actions or thinking is unconscious. Why we do actions or why we do what we do is unconscious. So yes, do supervision.
What is a supervision?
Supervision is to find out why you feel bad. What is the cause of your feelings? What happened? Or most of the time it's a kind of like super ego, internal voice, which is unconscious and tells you, oh, you are bad, or you should, or you haven't, or as always, you are silly, kind of all these bullshit, which is internalized and is gotten into the unconsciousness.
But can I do that to myself, or do I need treatment for that?
Ayahuasca helps, or the plants, they show you these unconscious patterns. Supervision does, healings do. And with yourself, it's sometimes very tricky.
Yeah.
I think it needs a little bit of experience, observing yourself and catching all these unconscious things. A little bit, you need a little bit experience in it.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I mean, you said earlier, now when we were talking, and also we mentioned that you were in the jungle because you have worked to heal yourself, and you have also, gotten help from others to heal yourself. Like, what can you heal yourself with when you're as experienced as you can, and what do you like? When do you decide to get others to help you?
Yeah, for instance, especially if you have an issue of abandonment, early childhood trauma because you were abandoned or left alone, nobody was there, you haven't had enough of holding, you need to have others.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Some early childhood wounds only, or nicht only, that's not right, heal better if you have contact and you can heal in that relationship, in the relationship.
Okay.
There is somebody, you have the experience, there is somebody there for you. But you can also heal abandonment issues with shamanic techniques.
Interesting. And once again, we have been using a lot of terms that I don't think that people are as familiar of as you are. What is the difference between energy healing and shamanic healing, or shamanic practices?
In my work, I can only say it for my work, so
Yeah.
that it is understandable. If I do energy healing, I send, I ask spirits, or I send by myself universal energy to that person, and so that the person can receive. If the person can receive, that's another topic. But if the person is ready to receive, I can send energy and the person can take it in for healing. So it's kind of direct energy connection. And it also works from a distance. Doesn't matter if it person is in front of me or in Canada. So healing kind of happens through this energy particle. Light is I don't know the word in English. If you charge a particle of light in Canada, immediately the light is triggered in Germany. There is no time difference. Instantly, yeah. There's no time difference. So this is the energy work.
Okay.
Yeah, it also works with, if you think, oh, please, Annelie, call me, then you will take your phone and call me, Or if I ask, Annelie, please, call me, you will call me maybe one day later, but you will notice it. You will kind of subconsciously notice, okay, Aramae called me. And shamanic is different. You go into a part of the astral world. You go into the part of the astral world and you work on the astral level of a person.
What is the astral level of a person?
Good question. Okay. Oh my God, you really want to know everything.
Yes.
The astral, I try. Astral world is everything which is there in the universe, on the earth, and in the spiritual realms, everything which exists. It's a part of the astral world. And the shamanic world is kind of all the wisdom which is created on every culture of the globe and beyond, which this astral world contains every symbol, every shamanic healer, every spiritual ancestors you have or other people have. And you can call spiritual beings, you can call power animals, you can call plants. Everything is on this astral shamanic level.
Okay. Wow.
It's like, it's like, as I said before, you go in a kind of movie. It's your cinema. It's your movie. You go there and then things happen.
Is it that you kind of experience a bit when you are doing ayahuasca?
No, ayahuasca was different. Okay. No.
I was trying to make it make sense. I will understand what you're saying one day. Hopefully.
It's also a part of astral work, but it's also more physical, mental. Ayahuasca is everything is combined and mixed, and you can, it's bigger.
Interesting. Okay, so when you say that in the shamanic world you have access to this astral world, and what do you do in this astral world when you do shamanic healings?
In astral world, I do the soul retrievals. In astral world, I get symbolic presence for people. I do healing for the for the young child. I do healing for past life. I can do healings for the person and his beloved or her beloved. So I use it as a tool. I can do ancestor healing. ancestor healing, ancestor line healing, everything, extraction work.
So it's like a toolbox. So when you get access to it, you can kind of do a lot of things.
Yeah.
How do you get access to it?
Oh my God. I go through I go with my spiritual, I don't know. I just go there. I cannot explain. I'm sorry. I'm not the person who can explain. I just go there.
Okay. It's just so fascinating.
I'm sorry. I can teach you how to go there, but I cannot explain how I go there.
I'll take you up on that later.
Okay.
All right. Wow. Okay. So we've been talking. Well, we've been talking about everything that you do, kind of. But I would want to hear a little bit about your thoughts on ayahuasca and the work that they do down in Peru, just to kind of, because I know that you have been committed to that path for a long time, and how does that add to the other work you do?
Ayahuasca is my work. The work I do in my healing practice, only 100 or 200 or 300 times stronger.
Okay, wow.
You know, I mean, for instance, if I do cellular healing with my hands, I lay hands on, I go into the cells of my client, I give healing. Sometimes I call power animals to help me, or I give golden light or rose light or whatever color of light, give into the cells and ask the cell to heal. I do cellular healing. It's going directly into the DNA. And changing the energy and the light in the cell. Ayahuasca does this does it more strong than I can do. And ayahuasca is the same work I do, but totally stronger. It goes directly to the DNA and deblocks every trauma, every disbalance, every disharmony in the cell. And ayahuasca brings the cell into the old natural harmony as the cell should be. Nice. Aligned with nature, aligned with the energy of nature, of earth, and deblocks everything which is in disbalance or in not divine order, kind of.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful work. I love it. It's more powerful. And also people who come to me and work with me a while have stronger effects on healing with ayahuasca because they are used to it. They can work. They understand. Okay. They can, as you said, afterwards work with it and understand what is happening. So the fear is not as big as if you have no idea how healing works. So perfect.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, but it's so fascinating to hear that ayahuasca is that helpful and that powerful, and that your work can actually be, that you can assist in kind of in the process of the aftermath of ayahuasca, and that is actually stronger. But one thing, because I've been doing a lot of healing myself, not actually healing myself, but going to people to help to heal myself, and I guess then healing myself. Anyway, how do you know when something is healed to the core? I guess you're never done with healing yourself, but are you ever done with healing a part of yourself?
Yeah.
How do you know then when that is?
If when you don't react to situations you were really pissed off before.
Got it. Yeah, that happened to me strongly in one situation last year, which I was like, oh my God, something has shifted. All right, cool. Okay, so I have, I could ask you a question for another hour, so maybe I will invite you back to the podcast and we will continue this. But I have a few rounding up questions that I always ask. And the first one is there anything I should have asked you about that I didn't ask you about?
Yeah, you should have asked about my longings.
Tell me about your longing.
My longing is community, and that with my work on myself and my work for others, that we are more able to live in community, healthy community. That is what I'm working on now. Because healthy communities make a better world, of course. Okay, that was it.
But it's funny because you actually answered to my question, because my other question would be, what are you working on right now? So that was actually that too. So I'm going to ask you instead, because I've been very curious about community living, community life, joining a community and stuff. But every time I read up on communities and stuff, they always seem to break up for some reason. And I'm actually going to interview a woman, one of the moms, to a guy that I interviewed, because they grew up in a community. So I'm going to ask her about that. But do you have any experience of that? Why communities seem to be a good idea, but that they somehow don't work for that long? Or is it meant to be that they don't work for that long?
I guess community building is very, very dependent on how the person are willing to heal themselves and to look into themselves, to observe themselves and make a change. And often there are people who don't want. And this makes it, there is a wall, and you cannot heal the community if there's one in the community who really resists to work on himself or herself.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful. All right. My puppy is going crazy now, so we're going to round off. Thank you so much, Aramae, for being here, for talking to me, for sharing all your wisdoms and answering my gazillion questions. It was lovely having you.
Thank you too.
Thank you for listening to Peel and Reveal, the podcast where we share stories about joy, purpose, and self-discovery. In next week's episode, I talk with Burkhard, an impact-driven entrepreneur and the founder of Akasha Yoga Academy. B is passionate about bringing ancient wisdom to the modern world, helping others live more meaningful lives. Make sure to listen in.